Hello, gentlefolk, and today we're going to be speaking about an issue that has the potential for quite a lot of controversy, in fact, and that is cloning, or more specifically, the implications for human cloning. How viable is it? And whether it's viable or not, ultimately, do you agree with it? Whether you agree with it wholeheartedly or not. Now, firstly, scientists will sometimes try and do things just to explore whether they can be done. It helps them to factor things in or out of other realms of thinking. But the practical application is, of course, in forwarding our medical capabilities, replacement organs, stem cell research, so on and so forth. I'm sure you are all aware of the possibilities that are being studied in this, growing a new part for the failing part in your body, potentially from a piece of yourself. Now, for example, those of you that are ethically against cloning, and I'm not going to put anyone down either way on the subject, okay? I'm just curious now, for those of you who are ethically against cloning, are you against somebody agreeing to take cells from themselves and have those cells replicated into an organ that they can then transplant into them? Or would you feel that that organ is still a new human life? Would you class it as a new human life? Just an organ grown? Or would you count it as part of the original person? And in fact, the spiritualists of you out there, would you count that as a spirit? Right, a person? Or would you count it as a non-person if they were a clone? Also, or would you count it as an extension of the original person so that they are one and the same? And if it was the latter, then that would be open surely for legal ramifications and problems. If you had a load of clones all walking around, the clone might be able to sleep with your husband or wife. So, yeah. Because they are you anyway, and legally get away with it, and it's not adultery. So got lots of problems coming up on the political climate, a lot of questions that need answering, a lot of viewpoints that need affixing. Now, if we just look a little bit at the science of cloning, the biggest problem has been longevity and the quality of results, because you get a lot of mutations and abnormalities that occur through the cloning process we've seen in animals. And obviously, most famous case, the one that was the breaking news, was Dolly the sheep, the first cloned sheep we all got to hear about on the news. And Dolly didn't live very long at all compared to her original self. And there is a scientific reason for this, and it is the same problem that would affect us if we were cloned right now. So if someone came along and said, right, we're taking the bits, we're doing this, we're pouring it into humans, we figured out how to do it, just like the sheep, there it's made. We'd probably have a human that would age very quickly and die very soon. Now, here is why. On the very edges of our chromosomes, we have something called telomeres. Okay. Now, if you think of them as little lengths of rope, when you're born, they're the longest they'll ever be, and as you live over time, you imagine that rope is slowly burning down, like the middle bit of string in a candle. And as the wax falls off, so does the string also burn down. And as you get older and older and older, and your ability to obviously replicate cells effectively diminishes, because then it is a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, the old Xerox process, hence why we age and get wrinkles and all the rest of it. Those telomeres shorten. So looking at the size of your telomeres is the absolute best predictor of your natural potential lifespan. Okay, so those are called telomeres. Now, the problem is that when they cloned the sheep, when Dolly was born, her telomeres had come from, I presume, an adult, of course, right? And they were already shortened. Because basically, the telomere stage, okay, the telomere condition of length crossed over into the cloned sheep. So its natural tendency towards the rest of its life was based only on the natural years left in its originator. Now that's a major problem to get round, and maybe they will find a way around it. And the problem of that and the abnormalities in some of the cases, maybe they will, I think, look into epigenetics. Now let's take a look at what epigenetics are. That is when you have conditions that aren't necessarily already present in your genetic writing, okay, and you weren't born with it, but your lifestyle, the way you have lived, has rewritten all of those subtle effects, what you've consumed, what you've breathed, what you've drank, you just like a lot of other factors, okay, those have changed your genetic makeup. So sometimes we think, oh wow, I'm from good genes, it should be all right, but you can't abuse it. There are things you can do, like for instance smoking can and will have some degree of epigenetic effect on your body, and it could potentially create a difference in the genes that you can then give away. Now let's just say you weren't smoking at a particular age, right? And then if you'd have had children, you wouldn't have passed the genetics on with any sort of change, epigenetically speaking. And then let's just say you've changed your conditions by smoking and do a lot of other things, right? And then once your genes have changed as a result of those environmental factors, if you then have children, you then pass on your new state of genes. So it isn't just the way you were born, it's epigenetics. Now it could be that with some sort of super reinforcement in the epigenetics, some sort of epigenetics conditioning, we might be able to overrule the problems of mutation and telomere instability. That could be a route. I'm curious if that has been thought about. Now, where do I sit on it? Well, I'm not on the fence. I'm in the camp of doing things that will scientifically aid us, especially the medical community, if it helps us as a whole and helps us understand. After all, right, even for those of you out there who are religious, I will put it down here that whether rightfully or wrongfully, we have eaten from the tree of knowledge, whether you want to take that literally or allegorically or whatever it is. We have intelligence and knowledge, and whether it's our right, as some of us feel, or our curse, as perhaps the religious people might feel, it is our nature, we can't deny it, it is what we do, and because of that we seek knowledge. And I think this is part and parcel of that knowledge-seeking process. So I think, really, it won't really come into regards of whether it's right, whether it's wrong. I think it's probably just going to happen because it is our nature. Just like it's our nature to find a civilization with something we want, destroy them, and take it from them. The way that we were to people on our own planet, imagine how scary the human race would be when it starts spreading out into space and colonizing. You know, all the people and things it will probably screw over for its own ends. We are horrible, selfish creatures, really. When you break it down and you imagine the forward possible scale of how more enlightened other creatures may well be. Because remember, the difference between us and a chimpanzee in DNA is 1%. Okay, 1%. Look how different 1% made us and them. And we feel we have the right to call ourselves the top of the list, if you like, yeah? The very centre of the circle. When in actual fact, you know, these creatures have a lot of better skills than us in physical manipulation, optical tasks, very quick memory challenges, and things like that. So we aren't really top of the tree. We're just sentient and top at actively doing things. But in certain key skill areas, we're completely outgunned at every step of the way. So even though we're advanced, we're not fully advanced over even them. It's only 1%, right? Now you imagine something, as Michio Kaku very often says, the very well famed string theorist, physicist out there. He states, you imagine another race out there, an alien species, that is 1% further again ahead of us. We, at that point, we conceive ourselves as intelligent. We can make reasoned debates, we can argue, we can create the technology to make these videos when chimpanzees can't, and we can use it and upload it and react to each other in videos. And yet imagine what those aliens, right, the theoretical aliens that we're creating for this, or you know, any other creature out there, you can call it aliens or not or whatever, or theoretically it could have been us if we'd have been 1% different. You imagine the scale of difference between the potential for another life form. If you think of the difference between us and chimps, take that difference again in enlightenment, and we would be as animals to them. I mean, just imagine that. We'd be blathering idiots. All of us, even the best of us. Really, seriously, if you think about that, that makes your mind just pop, doesn't it? And the fact that it's almost too much to imagine is very proof of definition that you and all the rest of us are indeed limited as we are. Because we don't have the potential to imagine something that we're incapable of imagining. Well, this has been a bit of a conversation with a slight inclination towards tangent towards the end there, but still roughly on the subject there of genetics indeed. And just the cloning process, a few things on the mind there, and you know, leave your comments below. And let's have an intelligent discussion for a change on YouTube. That'll be nice, won't it? We're not used to seeing those. See you at the next one.